everyone. It is November 29th, 2022. It's Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday! And not just any Harp Tuesday, but a very special Harp Tuesday, because 12 years ago today, I recorded the very first episode of Harp Tuesday. And so a big thank you for watching my videos, because without you, without my audience, I won't be recording Harp Tuesday today. And today what I have planned is a special episode about a favorite piece of mine. It's the Prelude, first movement from Bach's first Cello Suite. So of course, very well known. And I've played this with just the left hand, and I did a Harpist in the Wild episode on this, talking both about the history of the cello suites and then a music video of that being played left hand alone. And so today what I'm going to do is I've made my arrangement, as it were, which is just playing from the cello music, but my fingerings and pedal markings are available for free. You can go to harptuesday.com/episode 249 and you can download that music. And I'm going to talk through that and look at some of the technical aspects and then a little bit of the musical aspects of this as well. So I want to talk about, first of all, sort of the musicality of how we might play this. And it's interesting because it's such a well-known piece, right? It's such a famous piece, and there's lots of different versions of it. So the first suggestion, or lots of different interpretations. So the first suggestion I would have is to listen to recordings of cellists playing this. Try to listen to a bunch of recordings, get a sense of what you like and what you don't like. To me, it has a certain elasticity. So I think, what have we got? We've got one eighth note and everything else is sixteenths, right? So this steady rhythm, but I don't hear it as being like just absolutely metronomic, right? There's a pulse, there's a breath, there's a flow to it. And that's what we have to try and capture, and that's what we have to try and embody in this. So this opening, for example, the first three bars, they consist of two halves. We get, and then that happens again. So first of all, we might, like I tend to take a little bit of time at the beginning. At some point, this. You could give it a slight feeling of heaviness, of a little bit of weight, or of moving forward. That second half of that bar, just a hint, I gave it just a hint of an echo effect, right? Just a hint of maybe a little bit softer and gentler. That one as well. So not being afraid to take some time, and my other big suggestion, so listen to lots of recordings, see what you like, right? My other big suggestion would be record yourself. I know for me, whenever I record myself, I tend to think, oh, I'm playing it too fast, because it's easy to get carried away. It's fun to play fast, but certainly this first, say, page and a half or whatever, I think you can take your time. Take some time with it, allow it to breathe. There are certainly places that sometimes want to push ahead. This seems to maybe want to build all the at the 31, and then maybe taking a little bit of time at 37, so we've kind of finished all that. To reset a little bit, and that to not take the beginning of that chromatic scale super fast, taking it just a little bit slower maybe helps make that a little bit safer. And I think also just musically it's nice to not get too fast. And again, as I say, for me, my tendency always is, I think, to play it a little bit too fast. I have to listen to it and get that feedback that's different than when I'm playing it and go, oh, okay, no, I can take more time here, I can take more time here, I can take more time here. But just a beautiful piece of trying to bring a real sense of rhythm and a thread of notes, each note leading to the next, each connected, individual notes that we're playing, but this thread of music that runs through the entire piece. And yeah, I think just such a satisfying piece to play. And so the first question maybe is, why just the left hand? And I actually was inspired to do this a couple years ago. I think on my Facebook feed I saw Fernando Guerrero had posted a link, maybe in a group or something, of his arrangement for left hand, of his version for left hand alone. And I don't know that I actually listened to it at that point in time, but it stuck in my head just as, oh, that's interesting. And at some point after that, then I got the cello part, and of course it's so amazing these days because we have access to all this public domain music on sites like IMSLP. So I downloaded the cello part and found that in fact it really works nicely just for left hand alone. Now, of course, this is my left hand, which I have fairly long fingers, so this isn't necessarily going to be comfortable for everyone, but to me it's almost as if Bach wrote this for the harp. There's some really satisfying fingering and it really feels beautiful for the left hand. Of course you could use both hands, right? Nothing wrong with that, but I think it's a lot of fun just to play on the left hand, and it's also a great exercise, and it's nice to give the left hand a little bit of a chance to do something, because so often the left hand is left out a little bit. The right hand's doing all the hard, fast stuff, and the left hand, boom, 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 doing some chords. So it's great workout, a great exercise for the left hand. I remember doing one of the Boxa etudes, which was in parallel, a bunch of scale-like passages for both hands in unison, an octave apart. But I remember practicing that quite a bit left hand alone, and I felt that was really helpful for my left hand technique. And so something like this is also potentially really helpful for your left hand technique and has the bonus of being really fantastic, beautiful music. So before I play this, I'm actually going to talk about something you can do to sort of prepare your harp a little bit. This is something you can do anytime you're playing, say, Baroque music, for example, sometimes where maybe you don't want so much extra reverberation. So one of the problems, or one of the unique features of the harp is that this sympathetic vibration, you can play a note up here and stop it, but there's still sound happening as the other strings ring in sympathy. And so sometimes if you know you're not going beneath a certain point on the wire string, so in this case we don't go beneath this B, and in fact I'll talk about it, but it could actually just not go beneath the C. You can take something, I've just got a piece of cloth here right now, but you could take a nice handkerchief or something like that and weave it through the strings a little bit. It doesn't have to be through every string, but I'm going to go all the way up to this A, weave it through there, weave it back around just to make sure that it, through a little bit more, that it'll stay and it's not going to interfere with a B. And then, maybe I'll just do one more weave. And then, that's a little bit, should be okay. And then just slide that down out of the way. That's a few layers, so yeah, we're okay. The B will still sound. And now, there's just a little bit less resonance. And so in this case, because we're staying quite low, it can potentially get a little bit muddy, and so this is a thing to potentially do. I didn't do that in the music video they did in the recording, but in retrospect, I think I should have, and so anyway, something worth doing. I thought I'd mention it. First, I'm going to kind of talk about the technical aspects and talk about the fingering that I'm using here. And I did a slow motion recording, so then I'm going to cut to a little bit of that and later on cut to more of that and talk about that. So right at the very beginning, I just want to talk about this. So here, this stretch, this 1, 5, 10, is, you know, it's fine. But then instead of going back to 2 on this D, which we've just played, you know, with 2 on the way up, I'm going to 3, which would be the normal spacing, right, for this 6. And then, of course, back to 2, because we have to place 2 on the way down, right? We have to do this is 1, 2, 4. We have to do this is 1, 2, 4. But to do 3 here gives us a little bit of a relief on this big stretch here. So and that's consistent throughout all these patterns to almost always switch to the 3rd finger on this second beat of the you know, 2nd set of 4 16ths. This one here as well, right? And anyway, so I think that just works out really nicely, and all the way up until the point where this 3rd, there's no real point in switching to 2. It's the space is too small. And then I'm going to switch to slow motion to talk about the stretch. All right, so I've recorded some slow motion footage. I'm going to play that back and talk through some things with you. So first of all, here's the opening. I'm just going to talk about this opening stretch and sort of that idea of kind of connecting, but not necessarily. So again, typically we should try and place everything in one direction. But you can see here, coming back up, of course it's possible, like this particular stretch, this 1, 5, 10, I can certainly do. But as I go to play the 4th finger, that thumb is on the way, but it's not quite placed. And it gets on just a little bit later. And that's what you'll see consistently, is that the thumb in particular tends to lag behind a little bit. I'll go ahead and play this at the speed now, or at the slow motion speed, that is. And so we can kind of see the same thing on the way down, that as the thumb goes to play that 4th finger, oh, you can see the string is still vibrating. It just gets placed just a split second before the thumb. And that's actually something that also can help reduce surface noise and sound, is by placing as you play. The sound of playing covers up the placing. We'll look at that a little bit later as well. But anyway, so there's that sort of stretch. And as we get to some of these bigger stretches, it's even more so that I'm not connecting down to that 4th finger, right? You can see the 4th finger is quite a ways away from that G. I am able to connect from the 2nd finger, but you could certainly jump. And so you can see there on the way up. So what is this? This must be bar 3. So going back now, going forward, as I play that G, the 2nd finger hasn't placed the F yet. And in fact, it's a ways from it. And then I place, here's the 2nd half of this. And then when we get to bar 4, of course, that stretch is that octave, that G to G, way too big to comfortably place at this speed. So you can see I just jumped. You can see, oh, look at that. Even though I don't feel when I'm playing it as if I'm trying to connect, I was able to place that 4th finger before playing 2. So you certainly don't have to. And again, you can see I jump as I go on the way up. But anyway, yeah, interesting. So the next spot I want to talk about is bar 9, and just how this fingering, again, really conveniently worked out. So we have sort of these 4 notes coming up and then 5 notes going down, but it's a bit of a stretch, say, to go 4, 3, 2, 1. So in fact, going 4, 2, 1, crossing 2 under, going right back to the thumb, and then going 1, 2, 3, 4, lets us deal with this group of 5 nicely, right? We end up being able to do, and also have a very comfortable shape at the beginning like this. And of course, almost always when we reach the top of a run and start back down, we want to have the thumb on top, but it's it's certainly possible to cross 2 under and then go right back. So anyway, it works out really, really nicely. Bar 11, there's a spot where it works to place out of order, right? We place 2 and 3 before we play 4. It's a common sort of out of order fingering, and it means there's no chance of buzzing if we try to, you know, if we go, we don't have to try to avoid the D because we've already got the E placed. Handy. So then there's an interesting spot here leading into, I guess, bar 21. So we've gotten quite low. So maybe I'll play from bar 19 for you. Oh, with a G natural. Oh yeah, here's this nice long scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So a bunch of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3s and 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end. It works out nicely. Oh, sorry, with a natural. I can't very comfortably reach this here at that speed, so it's more of a jump, like I talked about in the slow motion. And now at 21 we have a choice. So in the music video that I did, and the written note here is a C natural, which works nicely, and now it's actually a much more reachable stretch. But now we have a C sharp coming up. So if we don't muffle this, we're going to hear it. And it's interesting because in some of the slow motion footage, you can see how long these lower notes keep vibrating. So in that music video, if you watch it, you'll see that I move the right hand over and muffle that. And that's fine, that works. It always bugged me a little bit because the rest of it is all left hand alone, right? Which is just kind of neat, and it distracts a little bit to have the right hand come out, maybe. It's also a bit of a reach, so for me it's okay, but even if I'm sitting up straight, there we are, it's okay, but yeah, it's a bit of a stretch down there. So then working on this with a student the other day, and right, okay, so she had an arm injury, so this was a great piece to work on because her right shoulder was injured. And I was trying to think, is there a way to avoid having to use the right arm? And then of course, we could do this C sharp in bar 21. We could do it as a B sharp, the C natural, sorry, the C natural. So that we can go, still this big stretch, that same as the previous bar now, same distance. And now everything's set here. We'll do a quick muffle, and then we're good to go. So now the problem with that is we go, this C sharp is still ringing. It will have gone away by the time we need to change it to natural. I guess, yeah, we'll have muffled it. So it's not a problem in terms of pedal changes, but it's a little bit of a problem maybe in terms of one's ear, the clash of this. Sorry, let's see. Whereas this sound, this one. Right, I think that sounds a little bit better. Sharp. We're only hearing that single note down here instead of both of them. I also experimented at 21 with doing the first one as a C natural, so we have C sharp. Sorry. Here's 21, C natural. Oh, sorry. sharp. So both these strings are ring, but at least they're the same sound. So we've had C natural, B sharp, and then hopefully we don't hear this one, that it's dissipated enough so we play it at the downbeat of 21, but maybe by the time we need the C sharp, that it's not ringing. So in the music, unless I change my mind from between the time I recorded this and post this, in the music, and I may have changed it later too, you might be watching this in the future. Hello future, hope you're doing okay. Then I've gone with at 21 to go to the B sharp and live with a C sharp. It has the advantage that there's no pedal change required, it's very clean. I do think that in terms of sound, so if I were recording this for a CD, for example, I think I would probably do the C sharp, C natural, and muffle that with my right hand. Anyway, so 3 options then for you, or maybe you come up with another one of your own. And then we go on, and again, all of these little patterns, it's like, it works out so nicely that we go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and now it's 7, so we can go 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2. Here, really being aware of the 1, 2, 3, 1 off, 1, 2, 3, 1 off, and watching for buzzing, right? That thumb. Anyway, just lovely, really intoxicating patterns to play. And then, right, I want to talk about the repeated notes that happen here starting in bar 33. So first of all, in bar 33, so I'm using the Anna Magdalene copy. There's no manuscript in Bach's own handwriting of the cello suites. So we have a copy by his wife, Anna Magdalena. That's the oldest copy. Then there's a copy, I think, 1750-ish or something like that, by a cellist. And so both the Anna Magdalena and this other unknown cellist's copy have some bowing markings, some slurs, but they're not the same. So I haven't included any of the slurs. So you can check that out if you're interested on IMSLP. But this, I have a feeling here in 33, so we get these double voiced notes, which I think, right, if we look at this, starting in 33, we have that repeated A, so it's sort of, it's showing the moving line is still continuing, right? F, D, E, F, G, A, and then the same A, B, A, B. But here in 33, these 3 ones are double voiced, and so I would imagine that this is just a misprint, that it's the same as this one here, that this, of course, is sort of the moving line. How much you want to bring that out and how much you can bring that out is kind of up to you, but let's talk about the fingering that I'm employing here. So we have these repeated A's, and of course, we could put this, for example, say, try to do this in the key of G flat, so that we could have a G sharp and an A. And let's see, then I guess our G could be a F sharp. Anyway, we could play around with enharmonics, but yeah, it was more than I wanted to do, and I wanted to just play it in the original key. So what I'm doing here is 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 2, 1. off, right? So I think these are not so bad. At 35, when we get the 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, then here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So that's maybe a little more unexpected in terms of alternating on these 3 A's here between the thumb, right? We get 1, then 2, and then back to the thumb, even though they're all the same A. And I like that feel. That's so we know we have that, like we're coming off here, we have this 1A right in the middle, and then back to the thumb. So much fun, some great pedals there. Nice little pedal practice as well. Nice little chromatic type scale. This chord at the very end, I'm choosing to break this way, which I mean I think is really the only way that makes sense. No problem. Yeah, and so then that's the fingering, and then the big challenge in this, I guess, really is that the poor left hand, not only does it not tend to get as much exercise as the right hand, but it's actually harder to play. So this is not the same as the piano, where both hands, it doesn't matter what register you play in, the feel is the same. In this sense, we have these strings that physically are harder to play. They require more force. And because they tend to vibrate more, oscillate more, it's harder to avoid buzzing. And of course, we'll hear a buzz in a much worse way, I would say, on some of these lower, especially the wire strings. So that is always a bit of a challenge for left hand, to try to remain clean in all of this. And here we have lots of connected passages where we're, so for example, all of this, the where is something where we're climbing up? Yeah, 33. Right? Are we trying to sneak in each time and find this note without the back of the finger touching the note beneath? Or are we muffling with the back of the finger? And in general, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to the slow motion to give you some really in-depth look at some of what I'm doing to try and make it as clean as possible. When I go to place this G, this is an example of using that third finger to muffle the preceding note. I actually just did an episode talking about using the fourth finger, but here's an example. I'll slow motion it. See that F is ringing. I'm going to place the third finger on the G. That would be pretty hard to place on the G without the back of the fingernail touching the F and making a buzz. So instead, I'm actually going to gently, just the very end of the third finger, touch that firmly enough to stop it, and then whoop, slide onto the G. Let's watch that. And there we go. Oh, and here's a new one. Sorry, so this one is accurate thumb placement. So yeah, there's a number of spots, and let me tell you a bar number. Yeah, so bar 24 and onwards, there's, just in general, there's a number of spots where we have to be careful. See that F is still ringing, and we got to sneak, I'll back it up a little bit, we got to sneak that thumb onto the E. So you'll see in some later clips, with the fingers, I tend to muffle the lower note when I'm trying to sneak them in, but I'm not able to do that with a thumb. And so that thumb just has to be very accurate. Right, there's that, I'll back it up a little bit. There's that narrow window that it has to trace to find that note without touching the note above it. So So yeah, some good practice there. Then this is, oh, here's an example of muffling with the back of the finger. So, so the third finger has played, we'll go back to the beginning. Third finger is playing this B. 2 is going to place on the C. So B is ringing. It would be hard, but not impossible, to manage to avoid that B and place on the C with 2. But especially these big strings, that my fingers are thin relative to my size, but I'm 6'2", the large hands. And so instead, I'll employ this technique, which I do quite often, I find very effective, which is to use the back of the finger to stop the string. So you can see there, the back of 2 is stopping the string and then placing it. So again, to use sort of the knuckle and avoid the fingernail. You don't want the fingernail to touch, but it's okay if the knuckle does. And there we go. Now this one is another example. Yeah, so in this case, the second finger plays that D, and now it's going to move to the E. And again, instead of trying to avoid the D, I touch it. You can see it's no longer vibrating. Here we are. It's vibrating, and no. And that lets me cleanly place there. What's this next one? Last minute replacing. So just an interesting example again of that idea that when you're first starting out, of course, you want to be very diligent about training the fingers to place before playing. You don't want to sort of walk your way down or whatever. That idea of connecting, which is kind of unique to the harp and is very essential. But as you get better and better, you may find that in order to get the sound that you want, you end up placing later and later. So that idea that, of course, if we replace on a ringing string, we will hear something. But if we can time that replacement at the same time as we play another note, that really helps it be clean. So here, that B is ringing, and the third finger is going to place on it. And the thumb is about to play. So you can see that I do, let's step through this, I do place before the thumb plays, but not that much before the thumb plays. So there's only a very small amount of time between replacing all that and getting some surface noise that way. There we are, we stopped, and again, this is very slowed down. Oh, and now the thumb is playing and creating some sound. And then as we go on, the thumb is going to replace on the D. So the D is ringing, the third finger is about to play the B. Watch the timing of thumb is not quite on, G, sorry, did I say D? The G is still ringing. Oh, look, the third finger has just played the B, and the thumb is actually placing a little bit late. And that's why I said, I think in general, for me at least, that thumb, when I'm trying to get a really clean legato sound, even though I'm thinking connecting, that thumb often might be just a little bit behind. And there was another example, right? That B, where we're putting a 2 on it, where you're placing on a ringing string. So when is the timing? Okay, it's ringing, it's ringing, it's ringing. We stop, and then the thumb plays. So not much time between. I just wanted to show this long downward scale that happens towards the end of the piece. Sort of, where is it? Bar 19. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. And notice how my hand, when I play the thumb, it doesn't make my hand turn. My hand and arm stay fairly stable. I might as well back up to see that again. Right? The hand is not having to do a lot of effort turning sideways, rotating. It's just the fingers working, and then of course the arm delivering the hand to where it needs to go. You can also see how my hand moves down. So when I play the third finger, think about where the arm was. Watch the arm. Watch that arm and elbow. Here we are at the Here we are at the beginning. And instead of playing those and then crossing over, as I play, there we go. As I play, now as I cross over it, before that third finger plays, I'm almost in the position that I will be in. There goes the third finger. Watch my hand and arm to see how much further down the away towards the base of the harp I move, it's not that much. I've already managed to position my arm and hand in roughly the position I want to be in this moment. So there, right, that crossing over, I've already pushed the arm and hand away from me, rather than, say, twisting where the bottom of the hand then also has to shoot out. Anyway, just kind of fun. I just enjoy watching the slow motion, right? It's kind of interesting. And again, for myself, sometimes we do things, we think we do it a certain way, but then you watch and you realize, well, no, actually, that's not quite the way it's being done. This I thought was kind of interesting just in terms of the thumb preparation. So this idea of is we're going down and say 1, 2, 3, connecting up to the thumb. Classically, we would wait until we've played 1 and 2, right? We don't want to place that thumb in advance of playing 2, but you can see how even before I actually play 2, that thumb is, okay, 2's playing there, the thumb is beginning to get prepared. Great. But then when I do 1, 2, 3, 4, you really notice how that thumb is getting ready. So it's, okay, here we go. We're getting ready to play 3, but that thumb is already thinking about where it's going. And it's a balance. You don't want to get distracted. You don't want to, you still should be thinking about the scale going down. And I'm not placing the thumb yet, but I've gotten it, actually I think it's going to the B, right? It's opened up, it's gotten ready to place. And so just that sort of preparation of the hand then helps make this as smooth as possible. So yeah, kind of interesting to see this slow motion footage and then kind of see what's going on, because it goes by so fast in real time. And as I say, in general, in order to try and make this as clean as possible, rather than, say, trying to sneak my finger in between 2 ringing strings, I will use the back of my finger, or back of my fingers, to muffle strings in order to make it as clean as possible. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Such a wonderful piece of music to play, so much fun to play. Again, if you play lever harp, check out the Anne-Marie O'Farrell edition. There may be some other arrangements of it as well. Yeah, just a beautiful piece of music. And yeah, happy birthday to Harp Tuesday. So thanks so much for watching. Again, it's because of you, because of people who watch what I do, that Harp Tuesday has been around for 12 years. And I really appreciate that. And I look forward to bringing you another Harp Tuesday in 2 weeks' time. See you then. Cheers.